It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. Your phone is face down beside you because you promised yourself you wouldn't check it. Your mind is racing through a conversation from 6 years ago. You feel broken, but the real answer is far stranger than anything wrong with you. You are not malfunctioning. You are remembering. For most of human history, waking up in the middle of the night wasn't a disorder. It was Tuesday. Your body expects 2 sleeps, not one. It always has. Historian Roger E. Kirch spent over a decade digging through diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe. He found something strange. Hundreds of casual references to a first sleep and a second sleep. Not as illness, not as insomnia. As routine, the way you'd mention lunch. People went to bed shortly after dark. They slept for a few hours. Then they woke up, not in a panic, not reaching for a screen. They simply got up. Some prayed. Some had sex. Some visited neighbors who were also awake. Some just lay in the dark and thought. Then, an hour or two later, they drifted into a second sleep that carried them to dawn. This wasn't rare. It was the default. Kirch found so many references to it that he concluded segmented sleep was the normal human pattern for thousands of years, right up until the late 1600s. So what changed? Light changed. Before artificial lighting, night was long. Painfully long in winter. 14 hours of darkness with nothing to do. Your ancestors didn't fight that darkness. They worked with it. Sleep, wake, live a little, sleep again. Then came gas lamps. Then electric light. Suddenly, night could be pushed back. Bedtime got later. The 2 sleeps got squeezed into one. By the time electric bulbs were common in homes, segmented sleep had all but vanished from memory. Within a couple of generations, people forgot it had ever existed. They just assumed unbroken sleep was the biological default. It wasn't. It was a side effect of Thomas Edison. Here's the part that should really unsettle you. If two-phase sleep was normal for most of human history, and you're waking up at 3 a.m. feeling anxious and broken, maybe your body isn't the problem. Maybe your expectations are. But it goes back further than candlelight and church records. It goes back to the savannah. Neuroscientist Jerome Siegel wanted to know what sleep looked like before civilization entirely. So he studied 3 modern hunter-gatherer societies: the Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, the Tsimane in Bolivia. Groups with no electricity, no clocks, no artificial light pollution. As close to ancestral human conditions as you can ethically study today. What he found surprised almost everyone, including him. They didn't sleep in one long, unbroken block either. And they didn't sleep 8 hours. They averaged closer to 6.5. They also didn't go to bed at sunset. They stayed up for hours after dark, talking, tending fires, telling stories. Sleep came well after the light faded, not immediately when it did. And overnight waking? Common. Expected. Not treated as a problem at all. Sit with that for a second. The people living closest to how humans lived for 200,000 years were not sleeping the way wellness influencers tell you to sleep. They weren't chasing 8 consecutive hours like a prize. They were doing something more flexible, more responsive to their environment, more honest about what a human body actually needs. So why did waking up at night ever start to feel like failure? Because somewhere along the way, sleep stopped being a biological rhythm and became a performance metric. Harvard sleep researcher Charles Czeisler has spent decades studying circadian rhythms, the internal clock that governs when your body wants to be alert and when it wants to shut down. His research shows that clock is incredibly sensitive to light, particularly the blue heavy light from screens and bulbs. Expose your eyes to that light late at night, and your brain suppresses melatonin. It genuinely believes it's still daytime. Your ancestors' internal clocks were calibrated by firelight and moonlight, both dim, both warm-toned, both weak compared to a smartphone screen at full brightness held 8 inches from your face. Your brain is running ancient software on hardware it was never designed for. So when you wake at 3 a.m. after scrolling before bed, you're not broken. You're a 200,000-year-old operating system getting confused by 2026 lighting. Here's the twist most people never hear. That middle-of-the-night wakefulness your ancestors experienced wasn't wasted time. It had a name in some cultures: a liminal space, a window between two worlds where thoughts moved differently. Writers described it. Mystics relied on it. Some cultures believed the veil between the physical and spiritual world was thinnest during that quiet stretch after first sleep. Modern sleep researchers have found something similar, minus the mysticism. Brainwave activity during that in-between wakeful period resembles a light meditative state. Not full alertness, not deep sleep. Something else. A third thing. Maybe that's why so many historical breakthroughs, poems, and confessions happened in the dead of night. Maybe that gap wasn't a glitch. Maybe it was a feature. Now think about what you do at 3 a.m. instead. You reach for your phone, you doom scroll, you catastrophize about tomorrow's meeting. You treat that ancient window of quiet reflection like an emergency to be medicated away with distraction. Your ancestors used that time to talk to a partner in the dark, to think slowly, to exist without demanding productivity from themselves. You use it to feel guilty about not sleeping. That's the real difference, not the waking. The shame around the waking. None of this means insomnia isn't real or that chronic sleep problems don't deserve real attention. Some sleep disruption is genuinely a medical issue, and it's worth talking to a doctor if it's affecting your life. But for millions of people who wake once in the night, glance at a clock, feel a jolt of anxiety, and think something is wrong with them, the truth is almost the opposite. Something is finally acting normal. Your biology hasn't changed in 200,000 years. Your environment has. Endless light, endless notifications, endless pressure to sleep in one tidy, unbroken block because that's what a culture built around factory shifts and school bells decided was efficient. Segmented sleep wasn't a bug in the human design. It was the human design until it got engineered out of us by light bulbs and productivity culture. So the next time you wake at 3 a.m., try something different. Don't reach for the phone. Don't check the time and do the math on how many hours you have left. Just lie there. Let your mind wander the way it did for a couple 100,000 years, in the dark, unhurried, undocumented. Your ancestors would recognize that moment instantly. They wouldn't call it a problem. They'd call it the middle of the night, and they'd simply wait for the second sleep to come. Tonight, when you wake up in the dark and your mind starts racing, remember this. You're not failing at sleep. You're just remembering how to do it.